If you look at a document, it's issued every 4 years. They identify the principal threats to the United States and its national security. It starts with weapons of mass destruction, WMD. And it follows with the non-state entity. And America's nightmare is that WMD would fall into the hands of non-state entities or the equivalent of rogue regimes, which is how they attacked Iraq. The third serious threat for the United States is radical Islam, which is the post-9/11 anxiety in the US. And the fourth is this whole question about the democratic constituency in the world and the need to support and sustain them, which is why the alliances. And I think Mr. Weiss made a very, very important observation when he said India is central to each of these. He used the word buffer in relation to India in terms of the growth of China. And Sanjaya Baru, I think, very rightly said that Henry Kissinger, I think, his obsession with Russia was grafted onto American strategic policy after 1974. And in a way, he also interpreted China in a very benign manner. For him, China remains the gentle panda. And that is how he has, interpreted China. Any book of Henry Kissinger that you read, he keeps saying, we must understand the Chinese. They are old civilization, etc., etc. But I'm just saying as an analyst that when Mr. Weiss says, why is India important for the United States? It's important for WMD at point one, because whatever the Americans and the administration may say about India and the nuclear issue, I think the more discerning among them understand India's compulsion, India's restraint, and that without quite articulating, India practices sufficiency in nuclear matters. The United States has invested in excessive capacity. So did Moscow. That's how the Cold War ended. And I think the Indian, shall we say, conviction about nuclear sufficiency and nuclear restraint is one part of what Benz did. Benz was trying to encourage the US leadership at that time about the enormity of the nuclear issue. Link this with radical Islam. India is, again, the buffer. The Islamic State, the ideologies that you associate with the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, India absorbs it with its diversity, with its tolerance, with its empathy. And the real danger is if it moves east and into Bangladesh, which is why I think for analysts. So I'm just saying that whether you talk about WMD, you talk about radical Islam, you talk about the rise of China, or the very fact that India is an experiment that must succeed, not just for the United States, but for the world. Diversity, democracy, empathy. We make mistakes, but the Indian Constitution, I think, is still wedded to certain principles, which is what I think some Americans are able to identify with. And Mr. Weiss, I would say that Abu bin Adam leads the pack. So I thought I would just flag these because he was being very modest in not outlining them. Let me thank all of you. This is the Subbu Forum. This is friends of Stanley Weiss.
Can I add something to what you said?
Okay, 7:30, so that's why.
Yes, I'll just one word, one sentence. I think we do a very bad job as a country in presenting ourselves not only to the United States but also to the European world.
Thank you.
We're very bad at it. We do a lousy job. We don't do it. They still think, basically, the average American or the average European thinks of us in terms of curry, caste, and poverty.
Thank you, thank you. So I just want to thank all of you for being here, particularly the Raja Sahab of Mehbubabad. He's a dear friend of Stanley. He's sitting with us, and Ambassador Goel, all of you who have taken time out to come. I'm not going to mention you by name, but Ajay, Vikram, thank you very much for being here despite your schedules. As I said, it's been a great evening. If you want to get your book signed, please come by and I'll request Mr. Weiss to sign it for you. And those of you who had a 1930 exit, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. Thank you.